राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि 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 बोल। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभुवचिकाचार्य स्तोत्रा सदा शिष्य डिवाइन ग्रेस ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी स्वप्रपाद की जय। समवेत भक्त बिंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayad Mudirahe Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. Today we'll be discussing on the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also known as Daivi Asura Sampada Yoga, or the divine and demonic natures. Right. So we will do the first three verses of Bhagavad Gita, we'll recite, and then I will try to summarize this chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhi Jnana Yoga Vyavastita Dhanam Damascha Yagyascha Swadhyaya Tapa Arjavam Ahimsam Satyam Akrodha Tyaga Santi Apaishunam दयाभूतेषु अलोलुप्त्वं मार्दवाम्रि अचापलम् तेजस्मादिति शौचम् अद्रोह नातिमानिता भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities of ocean of Bharata belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. In the beginning of the 15th chapter, the banyan tree of this material world was explained. The extra roots coming out of it were compared to the activities of the living entities, some auspicious, some inauspicious. In the 9th chapter also, the devas or godly and the asuras, the ungodly or demons, were explained. Now, according to Vedic rites, activities in the mode of goodness are considered auspicious for progress on the path of liberation. And such activities are called as Daivi Prakriti, transcendental by nature. Those who are situated in the transcendental nature make progress on the path of liberation. For those who are acting in the modes of passion and ignorance, on the other hand, there is no possibility of liberation. Either they will have to remain in this material world as human beings, or they will descend among the species of animals or even lower life forms. In this 16th chapter, the Lord explains both the transcendental nature and its attendant qualities, and the demonic nature and its qualities. He also explains the advantages and disadvantages of these qualities. The word abhijatasya, in reference to one born of transcendental qualities or godly tendencies, is very significant. To beget a child in a godly atmosphere is known as the Vedic scriptures. To beget a child in a godly atmosphere is known in the Vedic scriptures as Garbhadhan Sanskar. If the parents want a child in the godly qualities, they should follow the 10 principles recommended for the social life of the human being. In Bhagavad Gita, we have studied also before that sex life for begetting a good child is Krishna himself. Sex life is not condemned, provided the process is used in Krishna consciousness. Those who are in Krishna consciousness at least should not beget children like cats and dogs, but should beget them so that they may become Krishna conscious after birth. That should be the advantage of children born of a father and mother absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The social institution known as Varnashram Dharma, the institution dividing society into 4 divisions of spiritual life and 4 occupational divisions of caste, is not meant to divide human society according to birth. Such divisions are in terms of educational qualification. They have to keep the society in a state of peace and prosperity. The qualities mentioned herein are explained as transcendental qualities meant for making a person progress in spiritual understanding so that he can get liberated from the material world. Yeah. Then it goes on. I will just end here. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitamena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathavitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paryana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanto Namastate Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vaibhacha
Then
Patita
half an hour before I'll start
Pavanebhyo
it.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
Yes.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Everybody can mute their sound. Kameshwar Prabhu, can you just mute the sound of it? Kameshwar Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, I muted.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. All right. So as in the first three verses, Lord Krishna sets up the tone for this particular chapter. In the 15th chapter, right, we see the mention of the banyan tree, Urdhva Mula Mata Sakha, right. That's the banyan tree of the material world, where the modes of material nature nourishes both the upper auspicious divine branches of the tree and the lower inauspicious demonic branches. And as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that the extra roots of this banyan tree refers to the activities of the living entities, which could be either auspicious or inauspicious. Right. The chapter is summarized into three sections. The first section, in the first 6 verses, Lord Krishna describes about the transcendental and demoniac natures. The first 3 verses we see mention of 26 qualities of transcendental or divine qualities. And then 4th, 5th and 6th verse refers to the 6 qualities of the demoniac nature. And then from 7th verse to 20th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna further describes about the demoniac nature, right? Demoniac nature. where he further describes the activities, the mentalities, and qualities of those with demonic tendencies. Right. And the last section, Krishna describes about the choice escaping to the supreme destination from 21st to 24th verse, where he begins by describing the three gates of hell, leading to soul's degradation and entanglement in this material world, mostly lust, anger, and greed. And then he further describes that every sane man should give this up and act for purification and take to this path of Krishna consciousness to attain the supreme destination by performing devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And instead of acting under the influence of the modes of nature, one should act according to Shastra and ultimately no, take this path of Krishna consciousness very seriously. That this is the banyan tree which we mentioned in this verse. With if you see the reflection of the banyan tree in the lake nearby of banyan tree, you will see the roots up and the branch is down. The roots up because ultimately this material nature is a reflection, perverted reflection of the spiritual nature, with our real roots lying in the spiritual realm, right? So those represents the upper or divine branches of the tree, and then the other branches of the tree represent the lower or demonic branches, right? And then these 26 qualities which are described in this particular verse, first three verses. And Srila Prabhupada mentions about this Varnashram Dharma, where Lord Krishna in the second chapter further mentions Chaturvanya Mahashishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Right. Chaturvanyam Mahashishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, that I have divided this social status into four varnas and four ashramas. The four varnas being Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and four ashramas being Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So these 26 qualities are then further divided into these sections, where as a sannyasi or sannyasa ashram, one is fearless. So these qualities of fearlessness is there, or purification of one's existence is there. No association with women, avoidance of wealth, and cultivation of knowledge is there. Right. Cultivation of knowledge, jnana yoga, vyavastiti. Right. So a duty of a sannyasi is he must cultivate and give transcendental knowledge, right, especially to householders. And strictly following the rules and regulations, especially forbidden intimate association with women. Similarly, the qualities of a grahastha are charity, self-control, dhamma, and sacrifice, yajna. That's right. Where charity we saw in previous chapter, given in the mode of goodness at the right time, place, and person is recommended, right? Charity in the mode of passion and ignorance is not recommended. Similarly, we see brahmachari is more involved with the Vedic study, swadhyaya, of systematically studying Shastra under a bona fide spiritual master and observing austerity in form of celibacy. Right. Now, this austerity, celibacy is recommended even in Vanaprastha ashrama and in fact in all ashramas. Austerities are recommended. Yeah. One must, right, in each and every ashram, we see that Vedic culture is meant for liberation. For that, tapasya is a must. One performs austerity to wake up early in the morning, to go for Mangala Aarti, to chant 16 rounds every day, to give up these four forbidden activities of no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meditating. Right. In all that, he performs austerity. Haribol, Haribol. Sachirani Mataji, please mute. Yes. Yeah. So similarly, those divine qualities are further also classified into the four varnas as Brahmin, right? That he should be simple, right? Non-violent, not arresting the progressive life of any living entity, truthful, not distorting the truth for any personal interest, right? Satyam, controls anger, does not find fault unnecessarily. Akrodha, determined, not agitated or frustrated in one's attempts. Modest, and does not perform abominable acts. So these are qualities mostly as Brahmin, which he develops. Like Kshatriyas are strong and able to provide protection, again not showing anger to those who are inferior or treat one with contempt. Keeps the body strong even when tired. Right. So we see the qualities of steady determination, achapalam, right, or vigor, tejas, or forgiveness, shama, especially it's there for all ashramas and varnas, but especially for Kshatriyas. The act of forgiveness is there. Vaishya should be clean in mind, body, and dealings. Again, non-violent. And Shudra, not expecting honor in return, is menially serving all the other three varnas of Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, but not expecting any honor in return of his service. Right. So cleanliness, saucham, is there for everyone, especially Vaishyas. Freedom from envy is also there for everyone. Freedom from the passion for honor, Nati Manita, is there for everyone, especially the Sudras. Right? Yeah. And then Lord Krishna, from fourth verse, he describes the 6 demonic qualities, right? In the fourth verse itself, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Pita. Right? Demonic want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, but do not follow the principle because they are proud of whatever little they know. And uh, with that pride, they even contempt and challenge the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are arrogant, conceit, they desire to be worshipped by others, right? They demand respect but do not command respect because they are demons. They easily get angry over trifles. They become angry and exploit others. They speak harshly, right? And they are ignorant, not knowing what to do and what not to do. So they carry out all their desires whimsically without recognizing any authority of anyone, right? So that's the qualities of demonic nature. Then Krishna next removes Arjuna's doubt, where Arjuna may think that, okay, I am fighting this war against my spiritual master, against my grandfather, right? And killing so many warriors. So my fighting must be based on demoniac qualities. So Krishna removes the doubt of Arjuna by saying, no, you are having divine qualities. Right? You are having divine qualities, not a demonic temperament. Why? Because before fighting the war, you were not just instigated to fight a war, but you looked at all pros and cons. You discriminated with higher intelligence whether I should fight this war, I should not fight this war. He also additionally surrendered to a spiritual master, in his case, Lord Krishna himself. Karpana dosha prahata sabhava prichhami tvam dharma samudachetaha yatshesha nishitan dhuitan me shishyate ham sadhimam tam prapanam. I don't know whether I should fight this war or I should not fight this war. I am surrendered unto you. Please guide me. A person with demonic qualities, they do not accept authority. They are so proud and arrogant that they will not take shelter of anyone. Right? Duryodhan never wanted to take shelter of anyone. At any moment, he will become angry. And so much so, he won't mind insulting saintly person like Vidura and others. Right? So, so these both kinds of created beings, divine and demoniac, right? Like the demigods and demons are both born of Prajapati. The only criteria of differentiation between the two is obedience to the negative principles of scriptures. The person with divine qualities are obedient to the negative principles of the scriptures. The person with demonic qualities are not obedient to the negative principles of scriptures. um, They say this world is false with no cause, like flowers in the sky. It is not misunderstood, but actually has no existence as a real. No, means, person in demonic nature. Now, from 7th verse to 20th verse, Lord Krishna further describes about it. Right? That throughout, for the explanation of their qualities, they start thinking that there is, first of all, they don't believe any authority, so there is no God, right? God is dead. That's what they think. God is dead, and they're ready to kill anyone, and you are next. Their consciousness is, he is my enemy and I have killed him. All this is mine, and tomorrow I will have more, because of greed, which is so intense within a person with demonic quality. They don't know what is to be done and not to be done, because they do not follow any Shastra. They are unclean, both internally and externally. Their behavior is completely improper, untruthful, and self-centered. They'll just think about themselves, right? Further, we see the demonic philosophy is mentioned, that the world is unreal, that all these flowers, all this wonderful arrangement is just illusion. Though we see sun rises at a specific time and sets at a specific time, and there is so perfect arrangement in the universe, then also they feel that there is no one in charge of this universe. If anyone is in charge of my destiny, it is me alone, self-centered. That's demonic qualities, right? They're always thinking about more and more worldly possessions, like a materialist. Always thinking about acquiring more, acquiring more, acquiring more. Each for atyahar, prayasascha, prajalpa, niyamagraha, right? Always thinking about money, always thinking about these modes of raja, passion, and tamaha, ignorance, are so prevalent in the demonic natures. From the 10 verses from the text 16:9 to 16:18, it explains about the abominable activity performed by those possessing this kind of philosophy, that there is no God, the world is unreal, because it possesses that kind of mentality. They possess that kind of mentality because they are illusion with no intelligence. Right? They think to be advancing, but they are engaged in the work that is destructive. We see throughout this world, people are spending their brain of how to be destructive. More than creativity, how I can hack somebody's account, how I can be destructive, how I can destroy nations by creating nuclear missiles for my own self-interest or for my country's self-interest. Right? That's what they always think about. They are lusty, always thinking about different desires for their own sense enjoyment, right? And they are attracted by the impermanent, the body. They create their own hymns, right? Own God, and engage in asuchi vrataha, unclean vows, right? Which is primarily two things: sex enjoyment and accumulation of material wealth. Though Krishna mentions sex life performed according to scriptures, I am sex life, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. But they have no regards for scriptures, any regulations, and as a result, they live like animals, right? They're always absorbed in conceit of pride and false prestige, right? They create some principles of religion which are not approved by Vedic injunctions, right? To create their own honor, they even may try to speak on philosophy. So much so that they will also speak on Bhagavad Gita for their own honor, right? For their own honor, without having any faith in the real speaker of Bhagavad Gita, which is Lord Krishna himself. Lord Krishna instructs Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, his pure devotee. But to make a show, they will have their own interpretation and try to speak on these subject matters for their own honor. Right? That's the nature. The demonic attitude and engagements are further described as the sense enjoyment, gratification is a prime necessity of human civilization. That's the attitude. And they engage by securing money by illegal means for sense gratification. Right. Further, we see their mentality where instead of thinking Krishna is the supreme controller, the supreme enjoyer, like Bhoktaram, Yagyatapasam, Sarvalokam, Maheshwaram, they think that they are the controller and the enjoyer, and they are perfect and powerful. Right? And whenever they think, they're always worried about how they can defeat other enemies and always remain happy by defeating other enemies, like the competitors and all. They're always bound by material miseries and they are caught in a network of illusion. Can everybody mute? Yeah. The results of demonic work are further explained as they're perplexed by various anxieties, network of illusions, too strong attachment to sense enjoyment. Right. In the network of illusion, they are bound by network of hundreds and thousands of desires and illusions, like a fish in a net, though they are bound, the fish always thinks about, oh, where I'm going to get a food hung by bait, and tries to wiggle around to come out of the net. Right? Always planning to increase the stock of wealth. A person in network of illusion thinks that all his advancement is due to current endeavor and not because of law of karma. And anyone who comes in his competition, he becomes his enemy. And he manufactures his own process of vyagya. Example, Ravana wanted to build a staircase to go to heaven. Right? Hello, I will build my own staircase to go to heaven. I will conquer all the demigods. Right? They are my competitors. And that demoniac nature, for their own sense enjoyment, they have don't know discrimination. Though they are married, they don't mind even kidnapping the Lord's consort for their own enjoyment. Right? They're strongly attached to sense enjoyment. Right? And ultimately, these qualities, where does it take them? It glides them more and more closer to hell, lower species of life. They absolutely no faith in God or the super soul. And they perform all kinds of sinful activities but does not realize that there is a witness, a super soul, who is sitting within their own heart and witnessing all the activities. And because they don't realize that, they perform all acts in abominable ways without considering the consequences. Right? Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah. And they will like to perform all activities avidhi purvakam, disregarding the rules and regulations of scriptures and with complete disbelief in God. They are hypocritical in nature, and as I mentioned before, preach for their own honor because they are always envious of God, the saintly persons and scriptures. Further in the 18th verse, it describes what causes envy: material assets, so-called prestige and accumulation of wealth and strength, or lack of knowledge, does not know that present life is preparation for the next life. And the result of envy is envious of his own self as well as of others, envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. Right? What would be the fate of these kind of people is mentioned in the 19th verse. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, Lord Krishna says, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life. There are 8.4 million species of life. So they are cast into the lower demonic species of life. Attending repeated birth among the species of demonic life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. That's the Lord's verdict for those having these demonic qualities. In the 20th verse, they glide down to hell, right, and never attend me. Yeah, never attend me. And then from the 21st verse to the 24th verse, we see the three gates to hell is mentioned, summarizing the demonic qualities, right? Are chiefly, mainly these three strong qualities of lust, anger, and greed, which is compared to as the three gates to hell, right? Why they are compared to the three gates to hell? Because they lead to degradation of the soul, right? That all these demonic qualities begins from lust, anger, and greed. In fact, all these qualities begin from one main demonic quality of lust. Everything arises from lust, right? Yeah. The basis of the whole method and prescription of Vedic literature, the entire method is based on giving up lust and anger. The more one gives up, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow all the rules and regulations and gradually rise to the spiritual realization. Thus, one can rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Right? So, this Vedic system is practically instituted in the form of varnashram duties, which help in gradual elevation to the highest platform of spiritual realization and liberation. Right? In 21st and 22nd verse, Lord Krishna describes this. It begins with these three gates to hell and how one can get out of this hellish condition, get out of this hellish condition. Right. And then further he describes the last two verses, which establishes the importance of shastric injunctions, that one need to follow the shastras. The Shastra Vidhi refers to the direction of Shastras as follows. Injunctions prescribed for different castes and orders for gradual spiritual elevation. Everyone is expected to follow this. And then the purpose of scriptural rules, which are meant for gradual elevation to higher perfection stages of life. Right? The scriptures are meant so that following the dictates of the scripture, the sadhu and guru and shastra, one can get the knowledge from them to slowly purify their existence and develop the dormant Krishna consciousness within their heart. And ultimately, through the knowledge of the Shastras, they will know the tattva of the Lord and ultimately serve the Lord. Right? The whimsical activities are condemned by the Supreme Lord that one cannot just perform whimsical activities without any basis of Shastra. They are condemned by the Supreme Lord. So one should follow activities based on Shastra, based on spiritual master. That's why one needs to be guided by a spiritual master. And the importance of following of rules in human life. Right. In the last verse, see, the three gates of hell are now, by following rules and regulations of the Shastra, of Sadhu and Guru, once devotional service arises, right, the dormant Krishna consciousness completely uh, um, is revealed within him, and he develops love towards the Supreme Lord and starts serving him in any of the five relationships, right? Santa, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. The last verse, 24th verse, he follows the rules and regulations, avoiding prohibited behavior, understanding one's duty, and following the Shastras, are the gradual elevation of a person. Right? The highest perfection of Vedic knowledge is to know Krishna. Right? Sarvasya chaham nidasya sannivishto matasmriti jnanam apahanam cha. Vedashya sarve aham eva vedya vedanta krit vedavid eva aham. In the 15th chapter, 15th verse, the Lord mentions. Ultimately, these Vedas are there to know me, the creator of the Vedas. The Lord is the one who is sitting within each and everybody's heart, providing the intelligence and forgetfulness. Right? So, by performance of devotional service, the goal is to attain the Supreme Lord, to serve Him, to always engage in His service. Right? So, the Vedic scriptures are also there to ultimately make us come to that platform of just performing this unalloyed devotional service. Right? So the principles of scriptures are there to achieve this perfection stage of human life of Savai Pumsha Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Adoksaja, always serving the Supreme Lord Adoksaja. And ultimately get out of this defect of the human life. There are four defects: tendency to cheat, right? Imperfect senses, being in illusion, right? So to get out of these four defects of life, human life, performance of devotional service, and revealing our true Krishna consciousness which is lying dormant within us, serves as an elevation from our ignorant stage to a fully Krishna conscious stage. Right? And further, if one is guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation to the higher stage, then one's life becomes successful. Right? Yasya deve parabhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasyati katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanaha. One who has implicit faith in both Guru and Krishna, automatically to him, all the purpose of the Vedas are automatically revealed to him. Right? So one need to perform, come to this higher stage of Krishna consciousness. Initially we are bound by material miseries, but in a gradual elevation by performance of varnashram dharma, following the dictates of scriptures, having faith in sadhus, associating with the devotees, and following the dictates of a spiritual master, one can get to performance of true, pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord and develop, attain its supreme goal of the human life, which is ultimately coming to unalloyed, uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Not to become one with the Supreme Lord, like the Mayavad is saying, but to perform unalloyed, uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Not for some limited time, but satatam kirtayanto mam. Yatantascha didavita. Right. So that's in summary this 16th chapter. Are there any questions? Nityananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance. All Thank you, Prabhu. That was very nice. My question is, Prabhu, that we have these demoniac and the divine qualities.
Yeah.
And all of us have some of either.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when a sadhaka to take up to the path of Krishna consciousness, we're trying to give up our demoniac, as you said, the regulative principles, following instructions, and so on and so forth. And there is a formal, there are devotees who are following it, and then there are those who follow it and then also take diksha.
Mm-hmm.
So now there is the instruction, or even Mahaprabhu, he won't eat food cooked by a non-devotee because then it upsets your consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, my question, Prabhu, is who is a devotee? Is it someone who's initiated or someone who is, a sadhaka? And would it be okay for taking, say, he's cooked prasadam, he invites you over at your house? Because then it becomes fanatical. I'll only eat brahmanas cooked food. And so what's the proper understanding?
Yeah. Well, the prasadam point of view is ultimately fully dependent on what level of consciousness you are in and what observance which you can develop in your own life. To what level of observance you can develop to your own life. The highest stage being eating only Krishna Prasadam offered to the Supreme Lord. Now, there are devotees who will be following that are only cooked by Brahmana. Right, in the temple, we see we have DD kitchen where only Brahmanas cook for the Supreme Lord. Not that Jati Brahman, but Brahmanas by Guna and Karma, that they are second initiated. Right. Mantra Diksha they are gotten by the spiritual master. Now we may see that, okay, there are Brahmanas and then there are, as you mentioned, the sadhakas. Many sadhakas also may be more advanced. Right. But just like when we take a course, either you can audit the course or you can take a course for credit. So those who are not they are following the process, but they are not duly initiated. They are auditing the course. The real mercy comes when they surrender to the authority informed spiritual master. Right. So that's where this emphasis is there to take initiation. Right. To take initiation in each and every bona fide sampradaya. Right. Just like this, we see this analogy of electric house, reservoir of all electricity. Is that electricity is passed through conduits in form of cables, wires. And from that electric house where the electricity is generated, the cable carries that electricity. They're held by all these poles. And that same electricity then comes to your home where there is a socket. But to really get charged, you need to connect the plug into the socket to get electricity. So similarly, to really get charged to that reservoir of all prema, of Krishna prema, which is there, one needs to get connected to a spiritual master under whose guidance he follows devotional service. And ultimately, what does that spiritual master do? He connects him to the place which is a reservoir of all pleasure, Krishna Prem. And in a form of disciplic succession, he is able to connect because he got connected by his spiritual master, who in turn got connected by his spiritual master, and who ultimately, we see that line, like in our line, we see as Brahma, Lord Krishna instructing Lord Brahma, right? And ultimately, Brahma instructing to Narad Muni instructing Sukadeva Goswami, coming all the way, Narad Muni instructing to Vyasdeva, and coming all the way to Madhavacharya in our line, Brahma Madhav. Ultimately, in that line, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ultimately Prabhupada and our spiritual master. Right? So this importance is there of initiation. Right? And ultimately, the question about prasadam, importance is there of for fully ensuring that our consciousness does not get tainted by someone who may have cooked the food in the mood of lust, anger, because the consciousness of the person cooking the food is passed to the grains into you, right? And we see that on practical observation. Also, we see that if food is always cooked, where there is disturbance, even in the community of the devotees, you always see disturbance, right? So that's where one has to be more careful, right? Now, you'll see different gradation of devotees. A devotee like Nama's cousin Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, when he was here, was staying at his friend's place, but Raman's made sure that Mr. Prasadam comes from the temple. Right? Higher standards, depending upon what a person can follow. Is that all right, example?
Yes, Prabhu, thanks. Very nice
Yeah.
explanation. So if I can follow up, Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like we are sadhakas, we are grastis aspiring for a high standard.
Yeah.
Gradually, we are trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And as grastis, let's say, there are social family obligations if there's a wedding in the family or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And you have to partake in celebrations, or even now to an extent you can control, no meat eating. Even you can control onion, garlic.
Mm-hmm.
But then, having food cooked only by a devotee may not be possible. So how do you, what's the correct way to handle such situations without, others may feel offended. They'll say, okay, I mean, what are we?
Yeah, no.
So,
Yeah, sure. Well, okay.
so that was my thing, that yes, the principle is very well explained, Prabhu. Now, how do we adopt it in our, for a grasti, how to adopt in his or her life?
Yeah, no. Ultimately, even the grihastha life, household life is also meant as that no, in that ashram. Ultimately, also he advances to the stage of performance of full pure devotional service. So initially, okay, no, he may have to entertain at times, uh, depending upon the consciousness which is there in the family, to keep the family uh, to keep the family harmonized. To at times go to so-called uh, vegetarian restaurants where no onion, no garlic is served. But a person in Krishna consciousness more he advances, right? You start thinking, okay, even if there are weddings, um, I have seen devotees carrying their own prasadam with them. It's a simple precept that, okay, not necessarily to say that, oh, no, I'm eating only Krishna prasad, but I have dietary requirements. A person having vegan diet or a person having gluten-free diet, even the materialists, they will carry their own food with them, not expecting that at all other places where they go, they will have the diet. So similarly, not that, oh, we avoid those weddings and this and that, but means we go. If we are observing at a higher platform, the host will also respect. Means he's observing the higher platform.
Mm.
I'm just coming out of the wedding. Just 2 weeks back, we had a wedding in the family. We just wanted to ensure, some of our guests didn't want to just come for kirtan or this or that. But we didn't want to ban those principles. That even at each and every ceremony, there was a prasadam cooked without onion and garlic, without alcohol, without, it's not that, oh, we have two different arrangements. One for those who are not drinking, one for those who are drinking, and make all those kind of sacrifices just to satisfy guests, right? But the guests also understand, right? They're, oh, and ultimately, they start appreciating that, hey, there's so much variety in Krishna consciousness, which they are not exposed to, so they will think, oh, without onion and garlic, nothing can be cooked. But those who have given up onion and garlic and just eating Krishna prasadam, If at all they suffer from overeating, not undereating. And they see that there are so many varieties which we cook that we never lack onion, garlic. Right? And people like that prasadam. People like that atmosphere. Whoever came in that wedding just appreciated that sheer fact at the end. Hello,
Mm,
everything was done in Krishna conscious way and it was done so nicely.
mm.
Right? So that's how we try. But there are, as you mentioned, there are weddings which we go to where we may be obliged, but at the same time, depending upon what we follow, if we are following higher standards, sure, where there is a will, there will be a way. Esham satata yuktanam bhajatam peti purvakam. The Lord will provide intelligence of how to follow higher principles if we are at that stage. I know Maharaj Gopal Krishna Maharaj, even when he goes to his disciples' place, if they're in his disciples' place, if there's not second initiated or he does not take prasad there. Right. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prabhu.
You go
Yeah,
ahead.
nice class, Prabhuji. So, a very nice class. And yeah, to be honest, by studying Gita, talking talking truth and talking honestly for a couple of minutes is the practice I'm doing. So, at least for 5 minutes or 10 minutes in a day, talking honestly, practicing that is a great idea, definitely. So your class is wonderful, Prabhuji. Very good points you highlighted. Yeah, and there is also one saying like "Dharmo rakshita rakshitaha." So like if you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. So as we are grihasthas, so everyone is grihasthas. So uh, we are defined a clear dharmas for grihasthas. So first dharma for a grihastha is a bhota yajna. So we need to see the animals, or if they in this hot summer, if they need some water, keeping water daily. So the creatures below than us. So serving them, protecting bhota yajna. So protecting them is a one yajna every grihastha need to do. And manusha yajna, this is the second yajna where if you see the people who are lacking of food, try to.
Ramakrishna, do you have any questions?
Okay, no questions, Prabhu. I would like to add these points.
Yeah,
Is
so
it? I can add.
these are points which are there, some sasa, but at the same time, when we are observance and we are speaking about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we
Okay.
talk about Savai Pumsha Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Adoksaje. Just like we have in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
for the follower of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately thinks about the topmost dharma,
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed, Prabhu.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when we are discussing Bhagavad Gita and summarizing Bhagavad Gita, ultimately we want to come to that topmost dharma. Now, all the dharmas which you mentioned are also there.
Yeah.
But the
Agreed.
person performing devotional service
Yeah.
has
That.
no rin, no debt
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
ancestors, to the Pitra, to the this, that. He has no debt because he is serving Mukunda.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, Prabhu. Just.
So that's the
Yeah.
highest.
Agreed. Yes, Prabhu. So.
Thank you.
Maybe no questions to me. Just I would like to take a 1 minute time, not more than that. And third point, Yagna is a Pitru Yagna, just remembering our parents.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I will.
yeah, and
I'll suggest not to, I won't want to broadcast the other dharmas in this particular class.
Okay, okay, sure, Prabhu. So,
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry if I
No, no,
trying
that's all
to
right,
share
Prabhuji.
something.
That's okay. Okay.
I thought I can share, but sorry for that.
Yeah, no, that's all right, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Are there any other questions related to the topic?
Hare Krishna Madhupati Pr, all Gurus
Done,
Prabhupada.
Pranam. Worship Prabhupada.
Like Madhupati Pr, you mentioned that the advanced stage of the devotees, but how to maintain that? Because sometimes, the proud comes, oh, I'm advanced, now I can do this, that. So how to maintain that being advanced, but not to show off? Like
Mhm.
advanced, not just, become advanced and saying to any devotee this and that, feeling that I'm advanced. So how to being that maintain that no, being advanced also, not like a, be in the limit.
Mhm. Very good. So, in spiritual consciousness, more a person becomes advanced, more just we see that moments we have this Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. Uttam Adhikari, the topmost devotee, feels that he is not performing devotional service, others are performing devotional service. Right? In humility, he feels that he is not performing devotional service, others are performing devotional service. The real humility, which is coming from his heart, not lip service. He feels that, I am just engrossed in sense gratification. Right? Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote Chaitanya Chaitamrita, was directly getting dictates from the Supreme Lord in writing on Chaitanya Chaitamrita. He's feeling that, oh, I did not write this, the Lord wrote this. He's feeling that, oh, I'm just like a worm in a stool. Like a worm goes in the stool, and even when he comes out, he again crawls back into the stool. And I'm like a worm in a stool. And genuinely feels that, not as a lip service. So, a genuine devotee never feels that he's advanced. He always feels that he's always a sadhaka. He's always a student trying to advance in Krishna consciousness and seeks for the mercy from the devotees and his preceptors, his elders, his normans. He always feels himself as subordinate. That should be the mood. That's why Mahaprabhu tells us to wear a necklace of Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahisna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. Be more tolerant than a tree, be more humble than a blade of grass. Always respect others without accepting, without hankering for honor or respect from others. Is that all right, Jagdish Mahaprabhu?
Yes, thank you so much, Madhupati.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Haribol. Shemeshwar Prabhu. If there is no discussions,
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Haribol.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very wonderful, powerful class describing the difference between the demoniac and the divine. How one can attain, how can come to the transforms to the divine qualities. Even though we have some demoniac qualities, everybody has it to some extent, some degree. So this chapter explains that so nicely. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, dear devotees, anything else would like to add? Any other comments, thoughts, reflections related to this topic?
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
related to this topic.
Yeah, seems like everybody is very well convinced, Prabhuji. That's very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there is nothing else, let's conclude today's session. Thank you, Vancha Kalpadarupasya, Prabhasmidupti Evacha, Padidanam Pavanebhyo,
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Mera Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Nanda Gaudi Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Premanande Hari Hari.
People.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Prabhuji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare